Okay, eyes. Eyes have layers. And by eyes, I mean the eyeball, everything on the outside of it and everything on the inside of it. And then eventually we're going to work it back to the nerve that the back of the eyeball is connected to. And at the very end of the lecture, we'll work it back to the actual visual pathways in the brain. But first of all, just the eye. It has three layers. The outer fibrous layer includes the cornea, the clear front of the eye, and the sclera, the white of the eye. The intermediate vascular layer, or the uvea, includes the iris, or the part of your eye that you talk about when you say, my eyes are brown, my eyes are blue. Okay, that's the iris. The ciliary body and the choroid. The inner layer, or retina, actually has two sublayers. The inner neural layer with the neurons in it, and the outer pigmented layer, which absorbs light. So let's talk about the fibrous layer. So the cornea is a transparent structure on the anterior eyeball that covers the pupil, the hole in the iris, and the iris, the colored part of the eye. The cornea has a superficial layer of stratified squamous epithelium, a middle layer of precisely aligned collagen fibers, and a deep layer of simple squamous epithelium. It is avascular. Now, I found this amazing news that such a clear appearing structure had so many layers, and layers that you might think, well, wouldn't they not be clear? But they are. And that reminds me of the fact that we do have to stain our histology slides or they look clear. The cells are not naturally stained or colored or pink or purple or whatever color that they are stained. And yet, even so, I thought that with the cornea, that with all of the little structures that we know are in an epithelium, and such a big layer of collagen and then another layer of epithelium. I just thought that it was a lot of layers, and I was impressed at how clear our corneas are. The cornea is the most sensitive part of the eye. In the corneal reflex, a sensory stimulus, for example, a wisp of cotton brushing the cornea, causes a blinking reflex to protect the cornea. Damage to the cornea is bad and it can cause blindness. There's a type of blindness that's caused by like pathogen that irritates the eyes, gets in the eyes, and this pathogen irritates the eyes. And then people can't help but like rub their eyes because they're irritated, and their eyelashes end up damaging their cornea. And the people can end up blind, if you can imagine. That's a kind of not in America thing, but nonetheless, extremely important and a fight against the pathogen that causes it is going on in the places where it's endemic or where it occurs. Okay, now on to the sclera. The sclera is the white of the eye. It's composed of dense fibrous connective tissue. The collagen fibers of the tendons of the extraocular muscles are interwoven with the collagen fibers of the sclera. The sclera contains small capillaries and nerves. So you can feel if you pat your white of your eye, you can feel it like if you're putting in a contact lens or something like that. You can definitely feel it. Don't wear your contact lenses too often or the small capillaries will grow more to try to bring oxygen to the front of your eye that's being covered up by the contact lens. And you can end up getting like an unattractive overgrowth of small capillaries in the eyes. I mentioned this because this happened to me when I was a resident and wore my contact lenses like for, I don't know, 36 hours at a time. Okay, moving on. Eyes, the layers of the eyes, the vascular layer or uvea. So the iris is the part of the vascular layer that we can see. It's the colored part of the eye. It has the pupil in the center, and it consists of two pupillary smooth muscles, we'll get to this, the sphincter pupillae and the dilator pupillae, controlled by the autonomic nervous system. And then there are pigment cells and blood vessels. And here we have a cutaway of the iris in a brown-eyed person here. It's, behind the cornea. So the sphincter pupillae constricts the pupil. It's innervated by the parasympathetic nervous system. The dilator pupillae dilates the pupil. It is innervated by the sympathetic nervous system. So to try to remember this, because you might think, well, I heard that the sympathetic nervous system is a fight and or flight mechanism. So you might want to contract your sphincters or something. So to not get confused, I try to imagine that if you were in a situation of fight or flight and you're some ancient evolutionary ancestor of ours, you'd be looking out over a plain, looking for an animal that you think is chasing you or is attacking you. And your pupils need to be very dilated so you can take in a lot of information about a huge environment. And then for the parasympathetic nervous system, which makes your pupils smaller, I got nothing. But once you know one, then you know the other, right? So, okay, the vascular layer or uvea. Pigment cells are found in the body of the iris and in the epithelium on the posterior of the iris. So if you look at the picture to the right, they're showing little pigment cells. I tried to point to one exactly with my arrow that are in the body of the iris, in the meat of it, so to speak. And then they're the pigment cells on the posterior of the iris, and they contain melanin. Just a word about eye color. So brown irises contain many pigment cells in the body. I have very dark brown eyes. So do perhaps a lot of my students, but not everybody. Some people have hazel eyes, which are green eyes mixed with a little brown, or green completely irises. You know who you are. These people, their irises contain fewer pigment cells and less melanin. And then blue irises contain the fewest pigment cells in the body of the iris. Light passes through the body and it bounces off the inner surface of the posterior epithelium. So it's not a blue pigment. It's light bouncing off the back of the iris and the inner surface of the posterior epithelium. So, all right, where do we find different eye colors? Well, brown accounts for 80% of eye colors in the world. Then the next most common color is blue. And then the next most color is hazel and amber, which is kind of an orangey brown. But it notably doesn't look like brown exactly, if you'll see pictures. And then finally, gray and green is the most uncommon. So I know that there are some people that I've met who have green eyes, and so you are very uncommon. So yes. So when they write like stories about like heroes, they'll often give them an unusual eye color. I mean, it could be something that we don't even have, like purple or something, but lots of times they'll, say they're unusual. They have a different eye color. But most of us have brown eyes, and what could be better? Okay. The ciliary body is posterior to the iris. It consists of the ciliary muscle attached to the lens of the eye by the suspensory ligaments and the ciliary processes that produce aqueous humor. So let's get to a picture that shows this. Here in this picture, we can see. So this is the ciliary body here. And the ciliary body, let me get rid of this other one. Does that help me? Maybe. The ciliary body consists of the ciliary muscle and the ciliary processes that produce aqueous humor. So let's go over it again because it's not easy to remember. So there's our iris. There's our ciliary body. I'm circling it here, all right? And it consists of ciliary muscles and ciliary processes that, the little fingers that are attached to suspensory ligaments, the gray looking little things that almost look like hairs or whiskers here, but they're very filmy ligaments, you'll see. So the ciliary muscle, when it's relaxed, looks like this big flat circle. And the suspensory ligaments are actually pulled taut by the big round circle of the relaxed ciliary muscle fibers. These ciliary muscles control the lens, which actually changes shape. So in eye with the ciliary muscles relaxed and suspensory ligaments taut, the lens will be thin, and this whole system is set up for focus on distant vision. Now, we evolved to have distant vision, and now we look at, computers and phones and paperwork and books so much that we don't use our distant vision as much, but it is actually very important to use. They found that not using your distant vision while you are growing up, so as your eyes are developing throughout your childhood, can lead to an inability to see far, and then you need glasses to see far. So if you wear glasses, that may have been what happened to your eye. So that's the first top picture. Then what happens? Let's say that you do want to see close. Then what happens? The ciliary muscle fibers contract as they bunch up and make the ring of the muscles smaller and closer to the suspensory ligaments. The suspensory ligaments relax, and the lens goes from being pulled flat to being more thick and sort of round. They call this rounding up. Oh, the lens rounds up. As you get older and your eyes age and your lenses stiffen, actually, you are no longer able to have your lenses round up and become round, and you're no longer able to see close. So that's why you see older people using reading glasses, because their lenses have become stiff and they can no longer round up and focus on small stuff. Oh, well. And that innervation of the ciliary muscle is from the sympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic innervation causes reflex ciliary muscle relaxation. So this makes sense with the whole scenario that I'm building, that if you were in a situation where you might possibly have to fight, because let's say an animal's chasing you or something, you want your dilator pupillae to dilate your eyes so that you can see a lot of your environment, and that's under sympathetic innervation. And sympathetic innervation causes reflex ciliary muscle relaxation, which makes your lens flatten out, which is the correct way for the lens to be when you want to focus on distant vision. So that all fits together. The parasympathetic nervous system causes ciliary muscle contraction. So you contract the ciliary muscle when you want to look at something close up. And let's say you're safe and you're sitting at a fire with your, baby in your arms or something, and you want to look down at the baby's very close, and you feel very relaxed, and you're looking at the baby, then the parasympathetic nervous system would cause ciliary muscle contraction, which would make your lens relax, round up, and you'd be able to focus on your baby's little face. Okay, so moving on from the iris, the dilator pupillae and sphincter pupillae muscles, and the ciliary body with the ciliary muscle, the ciliary processes that are making fluid for the eye, aqueous humor, and the suspensory ligaments and the lens. We talked about all of that. So it's time to talk about the choroid. The choroid is the continuation of the ciliary body area. It's found between the superficial sclera and the retina layer that we haven't talked about yet. It contains an extensive network of capillaries that supply oxygen and nutrients to the retina. All right, on to the inner